Mr. Torres.
Thank you. I had prepared questions, but I actually might want to follow up on the colloquy that Undersecretary Clinton Brink had with the chairman. The chairman asked you exactly how are the actions of the administration unprecedented, and I might want to take a crack at answering that question. It seems to me that the unprecedented nature of the administration's actions should be seen not only quantitatively, but also qualitatively. It should be seen holistically. And when you consider the historic export controls on advanced semiconductors, which are the most critical of critical technologies, which will have implications far beyond semiconductors, implications for AI and quantum computing and just about every form of emerging technology. When you consider the historic security alliance between the United States and Australia, in which we're equipping Australia with nuclear submarines, when you consider the expansion of military bases in the Philippines and the rapprochement between Japan and South Korea and the historic remilitarization of Japan, a development not seen since World War II. Japan's defense budget has gone from 1% to 2%. It seems to me the sum total of all of those actions, especially in the backyard of China, would seem to exceed anything that any administration has previously done to deter China. And China does not perceive these actions as weakness. It perceives these actions as containment. So is that a fair description of the unprecedented approach that the administration has taken?
Congressman, I agree with you 100%.
And I also want to examine the notion that diplomacy as practiced by the Biden administration is a form of weakness. It seems to me there ought to be a communicative relationship between the two leading superpowers in the world. Even during the peak of the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, there was a channel of crisis communication between the United States and the Soviet Union. My concern is that a lack of communication could mean that we're one incident away, one miscalculation away from a catastrophic outbreak of war. So is that a fair assessment of the need for diplomacy between the two leading superpowers in the world?
Absolutely. We believe that we're strong, we're confident, we're also responsible, and that's why we're pursuing those communication channels. And
I want to examine the notion that the delay in the controls, the investment controls, is also somehow a function of weakness. It seems to me that getting these controls right is not an exact science. I mean, we have to figure out how do we limit China's competitiveness without undermining our own competitiveness, right? We want to impose controls on China, but not provoke a response that's so retaliatory that it does us more harm than good. So that, to me, is not about weakness. That's about figuring out the right balancing act. Is that a fair description of what's happening within the administration?
what I would say, Congressman, is we believe we have to be strong, we have to be robust. We also have to be very smart and very strategic, and to make sure that we understand precisely the impact of our actions and make sure that they land with maximum effect.
You know, I feel like we often use buzzwords to describe our approach to China. Strategic decoupling, de-risking, and I wonder, have we gone beyond the buzzwords? Do we have an actual plan for de-risking the relationship with China? Do we have an actual timeline for de-risking? Because we are dangerously dependent on China for critical minerals, rare earth elements, clean energy technologies, active pharmaceutical ingredients. Do we have plans for and timelines for de-risking in each of these areas?
Maybe I'll take an initial stab at that, Congressman. I can't say that I have a specific timeline by which we will reach X goal, but absolutely de-risking is our strategy. And to the previous comment, there are obviously challenges in our
But shouldn't we have, it seems to me we need actual plans that make de-risking a reality. And we need timelines by which we hold ourselves accountable.
We're absolutely pursuing de-risking. We've argued here there are benefits to trade. There are more than 700,000 American jobs that depend on exports to China. What we can't continue, though, is vulnerabilities in our supply chains that make us and our partners vulnerable to either disruption or, for our partners, coercion. And we are very aggressively.
And I noticed there's been a shift in language from strategic decoupling to de-risking. Is there a difference between the two? What's the difference between the two?
Well, the argument that somehow decoupling or ceasing all
No,
trade
not all trade, strategic decoupling and de-risking. That's a nice sleight of hand, but no.
all I can say is our policy is to pursue de-risking, which is, again, to
Is there a difference between the two, yes or no?
I'll have to take that back and come back to you, Congressman.
I'd like a response on that, too.
Yes, sir.
That's a great question. Mr. Whitman.